Yo, yo. How we doing tonight? Hold on. The summary stuff isn't fully edited yet, because I literally was doing it like 5 seconds before stream started. But we've got a rough summary of the chapters so far. It is, I will say, hellish to try and summarize these chapters, because there's so much that happens, my god. But I did my best. And for the people who have read Alternate Universe before, and may be able to phrase things better, and would like to, you guys are more than free to hit me up in DMs if you want to help me out with some of the summary stuff. Let's see, let me get us to the first chapter, or the 6th chapter we're on now. Left screen, full screen. Give me 1 second. Close out of all my tabs. Oh yeah. Alright. So how we all doing tonight? I'm excited. I'm excited to read some more. It was actually nice because I was making all the summary stuff, and it had been a few days since obviously we've read. We took a break this weekend, and I took a break yesterday because I had to get some schoolwork stuff done. So yeah, we're all vibing today. I hope everybody's had a lovely Valentine's Day. Or maybe you didn't, and that's okay too. We're all here. We're gonna have vibe and be happy. I just hung out most of the day. I had class, and I'm gonna read Dave Cat Fix tonight. Even after I read this fic. So yeah, I just hope we're all doing well. I hope you all are doing lovely. No worries, Lunar. I hope you have fun on your field trip. And leave Solux out to dry like that, damn. Listen, if there were more like little one-shot Dave Soul Cat Fix, I would fucking read them. I'd read them all day. But I need my little bedtime, because obviously I read this, and this is like story time. But I need like my bedtime story, okay? And usually my bedtime story is like a Dave Cat one shot that's like anywhere from like 3K to like 10K words. That's usually around where I sit when I do a little before bed reading. The neurodivergent urge to read DBDC again as you read Alternate Universe. I've been resisting my YWDMP reread. Because I'm like, no, I should probably only just focus on one unda fic at a time. And I'm currently reading, I'm rereading Eurydice Suite. Actually, I can pull out my phone. I'm rereading Eurydice Suite. I'm reading, Arcs, Call Me Arcturuses, what's the fic? It's an older one of theirs. Where is it? I don't actually know how to say the word. Chamomile, rosewater, and other unlikely intoxicants. I'm on like chapter 9 of that one. And there's a couple others that I have all my fucking time. I'm reading The Run and Go by Deserts, which is not a Dave Cat fic. It's a kind of focusing on like Dave Sprite, Dave, Dirk, and then Bro, and all of them together. That one's really fun. I've been having a lot of fun with that one. And then I'm rereading Eurydice Suite. I'm disappointed I'm honestly not that into DBDC. How far are you into it, Skitty? Conquest of Space. I don't know if I've read that one. Wait, is Conquest of Space... Oh, is Conquest of Space, the... Yeah, I know Conquest of Space. Oh, you're far into DBDC. Yeah. I enjoy DBDC, but I mean, I like, Conquest's Big Cat. Yeah, Conquest is really good. I drew fan art for Conquest, because I was a big fan of Big Cat. Big Cat makes me feel things. But yeah, DBDC, I think is, yeah, you have to, like, take a break. It is, because it's so long. See, to me, DBDC I had to take a break for, or I had to kind of, like, I felt like I was kind of dragging by the time I started getting to the end. But YWDMP, I was able to get fully through without taking breaks. YWDMP never became like boring or kind of felt slow or anything like that. Like I think DVDC, once you're at like the David part, that I felt like lasted a little bit too long. But like once you actually get onto Planet Hollywood, I was obsessed with DVDC and read it in like 2 weeks after. Now I still read DVDC in like 2 weeks, to be fair. I still fucking binge read it. But I think I enjoyed my time binge reading Your Wish for My Planet more than I enjoyed binge reading Days Work and Diamond Club. Now I enjoyed them both deeply, but yeah, same. I think the only thing is, rereading Your Wish for My Planet, I realized there was a lot more like slowness in the pacing that I didn't like upon reread. Because when you reread Your Wish for My Planet, you realize the amount of times they repeat information is like a lot. And because I had already known all that information now, I was skipping a lot. I was skimming more. Like the amount of time they explain the stuff about Fawzer is like a lot more than I thought that they did the first time around. And it's not just like it's reiterating the same information. It's just to different people they're reiterating it to. And I was like, I wasn't feeling it. But it didn't, like, ruin it for me. I just was like, oh, the pace is kind of weird in some places rather than others. Yeah, there were times where I was like, yeah, I thought we knew this. Yeah, there's a couple places like that where I'm like, and it's more obvious on reread. When you read it for the first time through, you're so wrapped up in the mystery, and the constant reminders are kind of nice. But, yeah, it's because Solux and Dave and then Karkat are separate. So you, like, and I like the time where they're separated. Like, I like it when we have Solux and Dave on Somnos and Karkat on his own. But we're learning information that kind of overlaps the same time. But we're discussing it with two different parties. And I think Unda still does a pretty good job of trying to kind of diversify of how the information is said. But it's still like, there's definitely a repeat. All the stuff with Fawzer was the stuff that really stuck out to me. Of like, or not Fawzer, sorry, Vicaire. Vicaire's the one. Yeah. Sorry, all the stuff with Vicaire, the repeat that we get with Vicaire. Vicaire's like, stuff that happens with him. Yeah. Yeah, Skitty. DBDC took me like a few months, but YWDP only took me like 1 month. I couldn't get enough. Yeah, I think also I was more compelled by the mystery of YWDMP than I was by the mystery of DBDC. Though DBDC doesn't really have a mystery, I think. I mean, it does, but not to the extent that YWDMP does. YWDMP, like, has me, like, constantly like, oh my god, like I need to know this information. Like, I need to know how the world building works. Like, I need to go know what's going on with this character and this character. DBDC had that to an extent. Like, it had that when some of the stuff with Dave's what do you call it, drives, all that stuff was really, really interesting to me. But like when Dave has that moment where he realizes that he has the psionic powers and he like freaks out and he flees, like I feel like and he like, you know, is at the camp and he's doing his whole like training arc, that like the pace felt really slow. Like everything kind of slowed to a crawl, and I was like, oh, like Dave, I just please start talking to them again. Oh my god, like please just stop being a prick and talk to them again. Like I was just waiting for him to like fucking get over himself. And now it makes sense because he like has to. You know, he has to kind of go through that character arc. But I was like, oh, you know, it's like super early for me, so I just wish a good read stream for you all. I might pass out in my bed. No worries, no worries. Oh, and then guys, so you can use for people who are just coming in, we now have a command, ! Summary, and it links to a Google Doc that I am currently, I'm still editing it, it's still in the works, but it is a rough summary of the events of every chapter so far. So if you need a little bit of a reminder of things that have happened in previous chapters, you are more than welcome to do ! Summary and pop it open. And I will do my best to keep it updated as we continue the chapters, and as we continue the reread, or just the read through. I say reread, but yeah. And yeah, DBDC people are 18 and YWTB they're adults. Yeah, I like the Soul Dave and YWTB. Yes, I am. The thing is, hold on, let me get a blanket really quick. I am such a sucker for pitch relationships. I am such a sucker for pitch stuff. Pitch Soul Dave is my fucking life force. And it is everything to me. I like Pale Soul Dave. Pale Soul Dave is fine, and Unda writes a lot of Pale Soul Dave, and it's great. But Pitch Soul Dave is so fucking good to me. Because I'm just such a fan. I'm such a fan of pitch relationships. I'm such a fan of how, especially my favorite part in YWDMP, or some of my favorite stuff, is there's like this one moment that I remember so vividly, and it's something happens with Dave. And there's a moment where Carcat and Solux are showing concern for Dave, but in two different ways. And they point out about how Solux's way for showing concern is like almost is pitch way. It's like a pitch way versus Solux's who's a pity way. And it's like two sides of the same coin. And it's so fascinating. Like, I love it so much. I love the way that Pitch and Pale are reflections of each other. And it's so, I love it so much. It's so good. It makes me so happy. Me when Solux isn't in a pitch relationship in an undafic, it's ever happened. Good. Yeah, you get Soul Rocks. You have Soul Dave, Soul Rock, Soul Cat. Yeah, he's always in a pitch relationship. Good for him. I love it when quadrants. I literally love it when quadrants. I love it when quadrants. I love that part so much you could just tell the difference, yeah. And I think that Unda has such a good understanding of how quadrants work, where, like, oh, okay. Anyways, we were like 16 minutes into stream and we haven't started fucking reading. This is what happens. You get me talking about Unda and I can talk here all day. My god. I could talk all fucking day. The troll romance system should literally be real. Me with my Moirail. It's about the spice. It's so true. I think that I feel like such a fucking nerd and such like a homestuck loser for saying this, but legitimately I think that the troll romance system is like my favorite way of like classifying romantic relationships in media. It literally is. And it like you just have words for it. And I think that it can apply to real life relationships. Like, I have a friend that like we jokingly call each other like Moirails, but it's like, I don't know, I kind of see like our relationship like that, you know? Like, it's joking, but there is a bit of like realness to it. You know, I don't know. I wanna fucking kiss me sis in real life. Why the fuck can't I have one? I wanna fucking make out with somebody. No, I couldn't actually do it. You know, in Homestuck, you know, pitch relationships are more extreme, than what Unda does. But Unda does it nicely, where it's like I think that the most pitch you get in Undafix is what, Solvris? I think that's the most pitchy out of all of the pitch relationships in Unda's Fix. I think the Solverse in DBDC is it. Because Unda's pitch is never like crazy violent. It's I mean, the Solverse in DBDC has hints of that, but it's not like extreme, you know. Anyways, all right. It's time for chapter 6, Song of the Witches. So I will actually very briefly read the chapter summary I wrote for chapter 5. Just so we all know where we're at. And then let me make sure the music is not too loud. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. Just so it's barely in the background. Okay, so for chapter 5, I will just read the last little bit. So in chapter 5, Solux, kind of towards the end of chapter 5, Solux is in despair about being rejected by Aradia, who is Death, Karkat and the rest of the group are working on their fire resistance spell for the test that they have to take. The group gets an email notification about their xenobiology class being canceled, which Solix had talked to Red Glare at the club to get that sorted out. And eventually the day of the test comes. Karkat's very nervous for it, and he inscribes his spell on his arm, and he finds himself itching at the ink that he puts on it. And he unknowingly breaks the seal of the spell. Despite that, he takes the test, and he is able to reach his arm into the fire. And for some reason, it magically avoids his arm, like it doesn't touch his arm. Unlike Solix, who can put his hand in the fire, and the fire just doesn't affect him. The fire physically moves around and morphs around Karkat's hand. Karkat is confused, but again, for some reason, isn't afraid. Has this weird familiarity, and he reaches down to grab the spark, grab the source of the fire, and he holds it in his hand before he suddenly passes out. And that's where we end the last chapter. So chapter 6, Song of the Witches. All right, I have to make sure I get back into this. It's been a few days, so pardon me if I am, fumbling over my words a little bit. Consciousness creeps over your mind once more, like the tide coming in. You're disconnected from yourself and dazed, so at first all you can do is let your senses filter the world back to you. You're warm, although not especially comfortable, and something thin is draped over most of your body. Yes, I know what he is. No, I can't tell you. He really can't. It's not his fault, another adds. Could we perhaps compel him to tell? If it wasn't painful, then perhaps... Would you like me to call my lawyer? I'm pretty sure the school is familiar with her work, unless you'd like to deal with the Honorable Red Glare in court some more. The first voice growls. It's Solux. No one is compelling him to do shit. Look, he's gonna be okay, right, Solux? Dave says. You put your eyes open with great effort, even if it takes a few moments for them to focus on anything. He's fine, Solux says, and hops onto your bed, sitting on your ankles. Somehow he weighs almost nothing, and you're reminded of the time Solix sat on Dave's sleeping body. Several people you don't know elbow their way into your line of sight and start checking you over, asking you questions about all sorts of things that you can hardly get your thoughts together. Yes, you can hear them. Yes, you can see that. No, you don't hurt anywhere. Please, can you go back to sleep again? You're allowed to drift off to sleep once more, and when you wake up, it's Rose who is sat knitting by your bedside. Rose, you croak. Karkat, it's good to see you awake again. Rose smiles and lowers her knitting. Looking around, you can see that you're in some kind of medical room, although you're in the only bed in the room. Rose is the only other person in here, but the arrangement of several other empty chairs makes you think that it wasn't always so. Your head feels fuzzy, but you feel a little clearer than before. Why are you here? You ask as you struggle to sit up. I couldn't possibly leave my fictional husband's bedside, could I? Rose gasps in faux shock at the idea of leaving. Maybe you were going to smother me with my pillow and get that fictional life insurance, you joke. Oh, I hadn't thought of that, she admits with a smile. You sit there for a moment and run your memories back through your mind. The test, the fire, something... Did I faint in the middle of my test? You ask after a moment. Technically, yes. You were somehow naturally repellent to the fire, to everyone's surprise, and then you managed to somehow pick up what I can only assume was the concept of fire in your hand. Doing so seemed to overwhelm you and you passed out. Solix caught you before you brained yourself on the stone, which was nice of him, Rose tells you. Oh, good. That'll be great for your social standing with your classmates. You're going to be the weird guy who did strange shit with fire and fainted like a weenie in your test. Great. To make matters worse, when Rose alerts the staff to you being awake, they insist on keeping you in for observation overnight, and they tell Miss Paint that you're not medically cleared to work. You know, in case you needed to be embarrassed in front of more people. At the very least, you're allowed out for your classes on seeing the future the next night. Here's your prediction for the future. Social mockery and isolation from your peers. Oh god, how do you say this word? Tassiography? Tassiography. Your teacher announces after you climbed a fuck ton of stairs to get to her classroom. The study of reading tea leaves, Rose says as you walk past the teacher to a small table with 2 chairs at it. Oh, very good. Have you done it before? The teacher asks curiously as you pass. I tried. I mostly just enjoyed the tea, Rose admits and takes her seat with you. Tasseography, as was just correctly pointed out, is the art of reading tea leaves. This is a method useful both for getting external advice, as outside forces can move the leaves for us, or as a blank canvas for our minds to project in an interpretation onto, which is where our own senses of perception come in. It's typically used for the latter, and isn't the best method for communicating with outside spirits and the like, your teacher explains. She goes to the history of reading tea leaves and the best practices for reading them. Once she's done that, she instructs the whole class to go over to a large stack of shelves and pick up a teapot, cup, and saucer that spiritually appeals to you. There's all kinds of tea sets here, and the sheer amount of choice is overwhelming. Rose beelines right for the sea-themed one with an octopus tentacle handle on the cup and a jet black teapot. Other people choose sets with stars on it, or glitter embedded in the paint. Your eyes finally stick on a pure white teapot and teacup. It's probably devastatingly plain, but you pick them up anyway and return to your table. Your teacher is going from table to table with a tray and a large pot. She offers each student a packet of tea, has them add it to their empty pot, and then pours the water in after it. You hadn't even thought about what you'd drink. I think I've drunk more tea since coming to this university than I have in my entire life before now. Everyone at the library is nuts for the stuff too, you tell her. Clearly, people of refined taste, Rose says. Hello, please do pick. Don't overthink it. Trust your first instinct, your teacher advises you as she offers you the tray. You take the tops off yours and Rose's teapot and watch as Rose seems to pluck out a tea at random and empties the little packet into her teapot. When your eyes roam over the selection, you're at a loss. There's types you hadn't even heard of. Your eye catches on one of the labels, and without thinking, you open your mouth. I didn't even know there were red teas, you say, your hand hovering near it. The red, Roy Boss tea. Very nice. Go for it since it caught your attention. It's supposed to be very good for those with sleep problems, your teacher advises you. Taking the tea packet, you open it up and pour it into your plain white teapot. Your teacher fills up your teapot with water and moves on. From my understanding, the underlying skill of this is in scrying, essentially. Supposedly you relax your mind and sort of free interpret random noise in the world to see. You could do it with anything else, I suppose. Soup, mud, anything, Rose muses. I'll keep that in mind next time I'm doing the dishes. Stare into the water and see my future, you grin. I predict you'll see clean dishes in your future, Rose jokes. And you said you were skeptical about some of these things, you laugh. You're trying to keep your voice down because it's pretty clear that lots of the people in this room take this whole thing very seriously. Alright, class, after a few minutes have passed, please pour yourself a cup of tea. As you drink your tea, I will explain how the process is going. Your teacher tells you all. Picking up your teapot, you pour yourself a cup of startling red tea that's full of tiny needles like leaves of the rooibos at the bottom. We begin by drinking our tea. This should be done with an open mind and the anticipation of asking a question or being available to receive advice. When you are down to your last teaspoonful of tea or so of tea, hold your teacup in your left hand and swirl the liquid 3 times counterclockwise. If you have a specific question, silently ask it at this point. Then tip the cup upside down gently onto your saucer, not on my tablecloth, please, and give it a little bit for the tea to drain away. The teacher explains. You wonder how many people smash her saucers by upending the cups too hard, or pour tea all over her tablecloths. Then again, this may be why she has tablecloths instead of clean tabletops. More often than not, there will be multiple shapes, and to read this, we work from the cup handle, which represents you. You then read clockwise out from there. Take your time, interpret the shapes as you will, and trust your instincts. Like with all skills, this one takes time to refine, so be patient, your teacher advises you. The room around you falls into quiet discussion between students, leaving you to look at your full cup and wonder about all this. What do you want to know? What you are is an obvious question, but what answer can the leaves give you? If your mind is blocked from seeing the answer, it's likely that any response to that question won't be one you can read. Besides, as Dave said before, you already look exactly like the thing you are, that you still don't know what that is. How will an abstract version of you in tea leaves help? You could ask what happened with your Ouija board, who contacted you. You could ask what Solix's deal is with you, but that seems far too complex for tea. What are you going to ask? You ask Rose. I'm going to ask it to show me a way to see my future, Rose says confidently. You sip at your tea. It's nice. Kind of strong, though. You don't think you'd have picked it if you knew how it tastes. It's all the more motivation to get through quickly. You can't think of a good question to ask, so maybe you should just open to it showing you whatever it is that you need to see. There's about a teaspoonful of tea left, so with a deep breath, you muster your concentration and swirl your cup, quickly turning it upside down as Rose does the same. We could turn them the right way up at the same time, Rose suggests a little nervously. That seems sensible, scientific even, you agree. You're worried you won't see anything, but you're also worried that you will. You lock eyes with Rose, and on a silent count of 3, you flip your mugs over. Oh, Rose says softly. Her saucer is full of tea leaves. What do you see? You ask her. Nothing at all. There's not even a bit of leaf left in here. Well, I suppose I see my own face in this very nice mug, but no leaves. You? Rose says sadly. Looking into your own mug, you're met with a strange sight. The bottom is totally clear, shiny white, except for a perfectly round cluster of rooibos right in the middle of the mug. Given that rooibos is made of little straight needles, it's amazing that they can form a perfect circle. It's a perfect circle. Look, you say, offering the mug to Rose, who leans over to look. It almost looks like an eye with how round it is, as in the mug is the white of the eye and the red is the pupil, Rose suggests. You wonder if she's thinking about her brother. You can see that interpretation, but it doesn't click in your head. Not that you know if the right answer will, or if there is such a thing. You say as you stare down at the perfect little circle. What are you thinking? Rose asks. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of round things, and maybe I'm hungry, but all I can think of is pizza, you admit. Have pizza then. Make your prediction come true, Rose suggests with a shrug that implies that she doesn't care much. She absolutely does care about this seeing the future thing, but you won't call her on it. I will have pizza, but I don't think that's it, you say as you keep staring at the cup. It's not a thing that you're looking at. It's not a ball. It's a representation of something. You stare at the red circle sat there wetly on the damp white cup. It's a sun? No, not the sun anymore. Wait, why did you think that? You shake your head and stare hopelessly at the mug. Whatever idea was at the edge of your mind is gone now. All the same, you take a photograph of the mug and sit back in your seat. Around you, other students are finishing up their own readings or asking your teacher for her advice or interpretation. As you were drinking it, as you were drinking it, seems she'd put up common meanings of certain signs, but the definition of a circle as order doesn't strike you as right. Your teacher has you select new cups and pots and repeat the process. You can only imagine how much dishwashing this class produces each year. This time, Rose picks a sunny orange teacup, and you go with one that's shimmery gold on the outside and a soft mustardy color inside. This time, your random tea pick gets you black tea with licorice in it. You don't really like licorice, but then again, your only experience is the stuff is those gross little chewy black sweets. When you pour this out onto your cup, it smells sweet and deep in a way that's actually appealing. Perhaps I tipped the cup a little too hard last time. I'll be more gentle this time around, Rose tells you. That seems sensible. I'm sure you'll have more to work with this time. Or, hey, maybe the perfectly clear cup last time was a message. That the power to see the future was in you all along, reflected back in your cup, you tease her. Are you trying to see if I can read the future in my vomit, Carcat? Because that's where you're going with that kind of saturine shit, Rose warns you, and you admit your defeat there. I actually kind of like this one, and this mug too, you tell Rose when the two of you start drinking. I'm not stealing the mug for you, Rose tells you over hers. I wasn't asking you to. Also, I could steal it if I wanted to, thank you very much, you tell her tartly. You know, right as your teacher walks by. Which, as I said I wouldn't, you add hastily, but your teacher squints at you slightly as she walks past. Great. Alright, that's about a teaspoon of liquid left. Loads of tea in there, right? Rose says and offers you her cup to have a look. That looks right to me. Also, wow, you drink faster than I do, you say. You're only about halfway through yours. Rose gently tips her teacup onto the saucer and waits about a minute. A very tense minute. When she lifts her teacup up away from the saucer, upside down, you can see that there's no tea leaves on it. It must all be in the cup. Yet when Rose turns that the right way up, it's somehow completely empty. What the fuck? You whisper and lean over. It was full of tea leaves. I turned it. There's none on here. There's none in the cup. What? Rose exclaims. That doesn't make any sense, you say, setting your own cup down and looking at the tablecloth in case they fell out there somewhere. There's nothing there. Rose's tea vanished into thin air. I see how it is, Rose whispers. Not only do I lose contact with Cthulhu, but I'm being actively blocked from seeing it all, Rose says. Her hands are tight on the edge of the table, and your heart aches for her. Even if it isn't true, she feels like it is. Hey, why don't we just go? We can get pizza, go back to the dorm, watch a movie, and forget all this, you offer. No. I'm going to master the shit out of spite. Anything that thinks it can stop me has got another thing coming. Do your tea already, Rose says with a voice like steel, and a look in her eyes that makes you feel a little bad for any supernatural force getting between her and her visions. You swallow your last anxious mouthful of tea, leaving just a little left. You tip your cup over onto the saucer and try to wait, just letting whatever is that's going to come to you. Turning it the other way, you look in it, and your words escape your mouth as the thought pops into your brain fully formed. It's a spade, you say, staring down at it. It's right there in your cup, perfectly formed. For digging, Rose asks. You hesitate. That wasn't what it felt like, but also doesn't not feel like that. Your head is starting to hurt. I think it's a spade like on cards. My boss's husband, the one who tipped Solix's ex off to his location, was called Spade Slick. That's gotta be what this means, right? You say, certain of it as you speak. It's your reading, but if that came to mind quickly, it seems like a sensible reading of that, Rose agrees. Are you going to see that guy again? Given the kind of problems... Sorry, it's just this spade, you say. Given the kinds of problems he caused last time, you're not sure if you want to see him at all. Or maybe it's just tea and it doesn't mean anything. Sure, it doesn't mean anything at all. You and Rose leave your class and start going down the 9 million stairs back to the ground floor. You think whoever built this tower was drunk as hell at the time because it doesn't even go all the way down a straight line. It's all wobbly. How are you feeling now anyway? Better after your fainting spell? Rose asks as she gets to the bottom of the stairs. Don't remind me of that. That's mortifying. I need to email our professor to see if I have to redo the test or something. I haven't had the time to think about what species this might make me. You groan. Well, you're not immune to fire like Solux, but you seem somewhat elementally inclined, Rose says. It's like it didn't want to hurt me, or I knew it wouldn't. It was really odd, you agree. Have you noticed unusual elemental occurrences around you? Strange behaviors of water, fire, or air or earth, she asks. I'm not the fucking Avatar, Rose. My life didn't change forever when the Fire Nation attacked. You snapped. You immediately feel kind of a jerk for doing so. Rose is trying to help you with your problem and probably distract herself from her own. She doesn't even deserve you being pissy about the whole thing. I'm determined now to work out what you are, Rose tells you. That's both great and slightly terrifying. When you get back to your dorm and you check your emails, the noise of dismay you make is so loud and clear that Rose sticks her head around your door slightly and... oh my goodness. When you get back to your dorm and check your emails, the noise of dismay you make is so loud and clear that Rose sticks her head around your slightly open door to check on you. The first email is fairly simply from the medical staff, who are essentially checking that you're fine and reminding you that if you feel lightheaded at all that you should come right back. That's fine. Irritating to be reminded, but still fine. The second one, however, is from your professor saying that you will need to repeat your test, but due to your extenuating medical circumstances, you can just come to class 15 minutes early tomorrow and repeat the process again. She's not expecting you to stick your hand in the fire again, is she? Rose asks after you've relayed this to her. No, it looks like it's going to be the same as it was for Solux. I have to write on her, and then she tests it for me, you tell her. I don't think there was anything wrong with your spell, though. It looked very similar to mine. I think the problem was you, Rose assures you. Isn't it always? You sigh. I meant that the conflict with the magic was due with your species, not a flaw with you as a person. Now, if you're quite done being negative, Rose starts. I never am, you interrupt. Then I am going to go to bed. I'm going to have a shower first, if that's all right with you. I'll be a while because I'm going to wash my hair. Rose continues as if you hadn't interrupted. Go for it, you say. With a nod, Rose leaves you and you are once again alone. You lean back in your chair and stare at the ceiling. What exactly are you? You can't think of any species that matches you, just from basic memory. Anything related to fire doesn't tend to pass for human, and there's the matter of your voice. Tap your fingers on your desk and think for a moment. On a spur-of-the-moment decision, you decide to leave your room and head upstairs. When you get to Dave and Solux's door, you knock, although you make sure not to be too loud. It's not all that late, but Solux mentioned before that he doesn't sleep at night, so even if Dave is asleep, Solux should be awake. Sure enough, he's the one who answers the door and looks you up and down. Managed to get through the day without fainting again like a Victorian lady with the vapors? Solix asks you bluntly. Har har, I had a question for you, you say without even a trace of amusement in your voice. A deal question or just a regular annoying Karkat question? Solix asks and leans against the door frame. Clearly he's not inviting you in because he's a rude fucker, isn't he? A regular question. You mentioned before how demons were made, but you also mentioned how humans tend to crossbreed with anything that's so much as polite to them, you say. I know where you're going with this, so do me a favor and don't ask. It'll make what I have to say easier because I'm not working around giving you an answer, Solix tells you quickly. Me asking the question implies that what you say in response is an answer. Okay, tell me an entirely spontaneous fun fact then, you suggest. Humans have, like, slutty DNA. Slutty DNA. Solix starts. Wow, you snort. Shut up. It easily mutates so that when it encounters a different species, it's easily compatible. Still not as easy as human to human, but it works. It does still need something like DNA to bind with. Different species have different sorts of things. Most magical humanoid species on Earth are workable, even if their magic has to fill in the gaps of that information, Solix explains. That's kind of cool in a way. Humans don't have much innate magic, but then you get this, you say thoughtfully. Humans' lack of natural, widespread magic led to far more technological advancements than other species. Most humans can't do any magic, and even among those who can, it's not as obvious or easy as it is for other species. That's why there's schools for it. The stuff you're learning most infants or other species can probably do naturally. Demons are from another plane of existence, so generally speaking, species from other planes of existence can't breed with humans. Gods can, or could. I mean, Zeus, right? Solix shrugs. The guy got around, you agree? What he means is, you're not half demon, Karkat. The same goes for any other species on Earth, you guess? Solix nods. Fuck. I just wish I remembered what I was, you say miserably and lean against the hallway wall. It'd be easier, Solix agrees. A silence falls between the two of you as you contemplate how likely it is that you're ever going to figure out what you are. Then again, if you could either retain who you are as a person or the knowledge of what you are, which would you choose? Solix asks, his voice soft and quiet. His eyes are downcast, so he's not looking right at you. Why do I have to lose anything in the first place? You ask instead of answering properly. Solix laughs, but it sounds a little bitter. Yeah, well, I wish I knew, he says. You're about to thank him for answering your question when a thought comes to you. Oh, unrelated question. The guy who smelt you on me, Spade Slick. Did you actually know him? Also, I never want to say the guy who smelt you on me again, ever in my natural life, you say with a grimace. And yet you said it twice and made me hear it. But yeah, I know him. He works for Radia, but his particular route took him to hell with the rest of his crew. We weren't exactly friends, but Slick isn't exactly a friendly guy. We weren't not friends either, if that helps. I'm not pissed he sold me out to Aradia. She's way more dangerous to him than I am. He's not an idiot, Solix tells you. Huh, okay, you nod. What about him? Solix asks. I don't know. I was doing the whole reading tea leaves thing, and I got a spade in mind. He just popped into my head. I don't know. Wanted to see if you'd say anything, then give me a light bulb moment, you explain. You got a spade, Solix says. His voice is almost too tight for some reason. Well, that was my second reading, you say. Sorry. Well, that was for my second reading, you say, and Solix's expression twists a little more. For my first, I got something else. Are you alright there? Solix shakes his head but doesn't look so much like a no as if it does him just shaking himself off. Yeah, it's fine. What was the first thing you got in your stupid tea time class? Sorry, I need to collect myself. I need to collect myself so bad. Solux sitting there like vibrating in his... You got a spade for your second reading. Yeah, it's fine. What was the first thing you got in your stupid tea time class? Solix asks you, shifting the topic. You don't get it, but you'll allow it. If you're expecting me to get defensive over the whole thing, you're going to be waiting a while. I've only had the one try at it, and I don't understand either thing I got. I thought of Spade Slick with a spade one, but then I got this too, and I can't think of what it would mean at all. you say, and open your phone, turning it around to show Solix the picture of your first reading. You got Smile a Spade. Smile, smile. Oh my god, it was the second reading. Yeah. It was the second reading. A perfectly round thing of tea in a white cup. Huh. It's really red, Solix notes, opening all 4 eyes to look at it. It was red rooibos tea. Fuck if I know what it means. Whatever. I'm just wasting your time. Thanks for talking to me, you say, and put your phone away. You wave to Solix and go to walk off. Whatever. See you tomorrow, Solix says and shuts his door. Your mind churns over Solix's information. That rules out being half-demon, which is a shame, because it would have explained a lot. But that's fine. You've ruled out something. That's helpful. Just a bajillion other things you could be. You wonder over the math of how many possible permutations of species you could be. It's possible you could just run the numbers, but that'd probably make you cry, so you won't think it. When morning arrives, you have yet another email, but this one is good enough to go over at breakfast with your friends. Hold on, the, toilet's running in the other room, and I have to fucking shut it off. Alright, sorry about that. Okay. Alright. Here we go. This is a whole bunch of replacement courses we could take, Jade says in delight as she watches June scroll through the list. Dave, you should do magical combat, Solix tells him. I don't know. I don't really want to fight anything, Dave says apathetically. Dave, please, Solix says earnestly. I think it could be fun. It's probably all for self-defense anyways, and it says it's a required course to any later modules that have fieldwork in. That means magical archaeology too, June chips in. Oh, I'd want to do that then. I'd like to do lots of exploring, and if it's required, it'd be better to do it sooner rather than later, Jade nods. I'm all up for a little chaos. What about you, Carcat? We could all take it together, Rose suggests. Yeah, it'd be fun, June cheers. Sure, why not? You shrug. Everyone looks at Dave, who is the last to agree. It's pretty plain what Solix wants, so no one needs to even ask. Okay, geez, we'll do Magical Fight Club. Dave groans. Dave, what have I told you about the first rule of Magic Fight Club? June asks him seriously. Your friends are a bunch of nerd losers. It's official. When you head to your class early to take your test, it just so happens that all of said nerd loser friends follow you. It's hard to block out their presence as you ink in your spell on your teacher's arm, but you need to be sure that you get this right. Now you need to activate the spell, your teacher tells you. You don't know how to do that exactly. You've seen Solix and Rose both do it with a teleportation spell and a silent spell respectively, but they did that by slapping the thing, and you don't want to slap your professor. You also don't want to fail your test, though. She won't burn. You won't let her. Quickly, you bring your hand down on her arm and give it a little slap. Ow, your professor says, and your spell does nothing. You open your mouth to apologize. You didn't mean to hurt her. You were trying to do the opposite. You wanted to protect her. The feeling snags on something. It's like those engines that start from a ripcord. Your mind floods with the beating sound of rain, water on your skin, and the howling storm at your back. You won't let your professor get burnt. You and the rain and the wind will keep her safe. The black ink on her arm flares up in the light and settles into a soft dove-gray glow. Your professor slides her hand into the fire and feels no pain and takes no damage. She withdraws her hand and you instinctively let go of the spell. Well done. That was a nice spell. You passed, she tells you. With a wave of one hand, she extinguishes the flame she had in the bowl on her desk and grabs a wet cloth from a packet on her desk as she starts to clean the ink from her arm. Good job not passing out this time, Solix snickers from the doorway. You turn around and see that your friends were all watching you this whole time. Do you have to be supportive in the most irritating way possible? You ask him. Of course we do, Carcat. We're your friends, June says brightly, making Solix snicker at her side. Yeah, you can see why those two get along. You want to be irked at her comment, but the stupid part in your brain that's the stupid part of your brain that's seemingly part golden retriever is just going friends excitedly in the back of your mind. That makes it pretty hard to be convincingly irritated. Come on, you sigh, faking a long-suffering attitude as you head up to your seat, and your friends come into the room with you and settle into their own places. Your friends chatter about meaningless things. Rose suggests picking up some loose tea on your way back to your dorm so that you two can test and see if Rose's inability to get anything to read keeps going on. The rest of your friends hadn't heard about this, so it's mostly you and her recounting what happened, and Rose reaffirming that she's going to see the future, even if she has to ascend into the heavens and fight anything that she finds up there. You entirely believe that she would. Rose's plans for a holy WWE match are put on pause when your teacher starts making the kind of sounds and body language that suggests that a lecture is about to start, but she doesn't want to be the kind of teacher that has to demand that people shut up. The rest of the usual students are here now, and so she's loudly organizing stacks of paper on her desks and writing things on the board, standing by it expectantly. All that sort of thing. It works, and your class slowly falls silent. Imagine. Never fucking works in high school. Though I guess in college it works. This next module will be in BASIC. This is a human standardized language developed by humans instead of adopted from other species. It was designed to be easy and simplistic to use, but the best way to understand it is to understand its history. As such, today's class will be based on that, she explains. You've already started taking notes and you're listening eagerly. Magic has always proliferated in non-human species. Even the least magically inclined non-humans have more magical ability than the average human. The majority of humans can use pre-prepared, simplified spells made for mass consumption, but there are still plenty of humans who cannot. This isn't to say that humans cannot do their own magic naturally, she goes on. Plenty of early forms of magic within humans were medical in nature. Herbalism and early medicine go hand in hand. To an extent, they still do. But life was dangerous back then. No antibiotics, no hospitals, no safe surgery. Early witches were closely entwined with healing, and given that they were involved with blood, birth, and death, there's a lot of raw magical energy around that's easy to draw on. Witches trained each other in very informal ways, and often knowledge was not widely passed along. She continues, writing on the board about medical magic as she talks. Of course, there were other uses for magic. Sacrifices to gods were done via priests or witches who were more inclined to be able to speak with the gods, and in many cultures they were rewarded for this. This was anything from blessing a current ruler, cursing an enemy, bargaining for better weather, all that sort of thing. However, humans often feared that which they did not understand. Witches in all cultures ran the risk of people turning on them for any number of reasons. A witch who could curse your enemies could curse you, and that was a terrible threat to live under. Easier to just kill the witch, your teacher sighs a little sadly. You still haven't gone to see that statue, but even you know about the witch burnings in Salem. You admire the tenacity of the witches who started this school to set it up right here as a giant fuck you to the people who killed those witches so long ago. It's the sort of successful pettiness that you can really get behind. You smile when you think about what those people would make of their precious Salem now. The storefronts around here all have that overly witchy aesthetic to appeal to students and tourists alike. The town has a way bigger than average population of non-humans, and a literal demon lives in your building. Yeah, you like that about this place. Witchcraft remained on the fringes of society as the Industrial Revolution hit. People practiced in secret, and texts were encoded and passed around and copied secretly by hand. Copying out books of spells by hand was a rite of passage for witches of old. Thankfully, not one we have to do now, your teacher says with a sly smile at the class. This probably has a lot to tie in with Kanaya's thesis about hidden texts and weavings. You should bring it up with her when you see her next. Everything changed after the First World War. Without widespread magic, humankind had lent into technological development, and it was here where other species really saw what we were capable of. Of course, it only got worse from there. Keen to not have a repeat of the horrors of the First World War, many countries, both Allied and Axis alike, started searching for different methods of war. Chemical warfare, nuclear bombs, but magic was floated as a solution. Britain documented this process the best, and they were the ones who had the first breakthrough in the modern era of magic. Word was spread through the church to find witches and even members of their own clergy who were especially inclined to anything supernatural. They were called in, interviewed, and essentially drafted, your teacher explains. Plenty of the people who weren't magical at all, just regarded as unusual in their community, but they caught in plenty of real witches. Mostly women at the time, and quite a number already worked in the military and their hospitals, easing the pain and injury on the returned soldiers beyond what medicine of their time could do. Needless to say, that was something that caught the attention of those in power, your teacher goes on. Yeah, you can imagine. Any way to ease the suffering of people who had been dragged into a war they had no real choice to go into could only be a good thing. You studied history in school. You know that you're already older than a lot of the men who died in those wars, to say nothing of those who came back broken. If you could heal people with magic, and you saw people hurt that badly, you'd do anything you could to help them. Yet this was in a time when magic clearly wasn't accepted, so these witches were putting themselves at personal risk to help others because it was the right thing to do. Something in you glows at that thought. The problem is there was no language for magic then. The words were poetry with intent. Spellcasting through charms, objects, feelings, and sacrifice. The truly adept could do with great finesse and precision, but the majority risked the accidental misfires that magic done without proper language entails. Without language to rule out imprecise double meaning, to define parameters formally, and delineate effects, spells could go wildly wrong. Not something you want in a war situation. But still, research was done. She continues. The board now has notes about the First World War, and she begins to write the heading of the Second World War. When the Second World War began, the British ended up inventing one of the earliest prototypes of the computer, thanks to Alan Turing and his team at Bletchley Park. However, their work at the time was essentially revolved around creating a language to speak to an inanimate object and to get an answer from it. The artificial code for their machine had to be made from scratch. A woman working at Bletchley Park at the time mentioned to Alan about the problems they'd been having with magic, and although witches had made contributions to medicine, a lot of their more useful and powerful spells were too unreliable to be approved to use in the war. He correctly deduced that language was the problem, she explains, and in large letters writes BASIC on the board. BASIC started development by Turing, and has been added and improved upon by many since then. The standardization and formalization of magical language in a human-centric way enabled many who were capable of magic but not naturally inclined to the historical methods to wield it. It allowed the subject to be more readily taught, and advances in healing magic leapt forward, and covered the tail end of the Second War. Thankfully, aggressive magic did not end up being used in that war. As you can imagine, there has historically been friction between traditional magical philosophies in humans and those who prefer the speciality of written magical language, but that is a class for another time. Now, to explain how BASIC works, your teacher smiles. As the class goes on, she explains the very straightforward way that BASIC selects a target of its magic, how to define a tether for it, and how it has no preference for tethers, unlike a lot of languages, the mathematical way it operates, and so on. She explains the grammar, the structure, leaving your notebook several pages deep by the time the class is done. As a little note, I think I really like this, the way that the world building is set up, where we kind of have, like, hey, here's the justification of why the languages, or the magical languages, are, like, mostly written in code. Or at least the structure of it. Of BASIC being written in code, because you can imagine, like, things like C, things like Basilisk, these things that were adapted from other cultures, humans needing to study them, so, you know, them taking these languages that, or this inherent magic that was in these other species, and trying to adapt it to be able to utilize it themselves. And so taking it and putting it into this, like, coding, you know, format. It's really interesting. And, it's so, I try not to... Okay. Earlier this week, actually yesterday, I finished a video. It was a 10-hour video called A Brief Look at Harry Potter, and it was a fantastic video, just absolutely breaking down why so many elements of Harry Potter, like, Harry Potter's world building just doesn't work. And, like... the way that the magic system works, and the way that the society works, and the history, and how it doesn't match up, and it was just a really, really interesting video, and I literally watched all 10 hours. And looking at that, I'm only 2 hours into that rip, but yeah, that video is great. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. But even, like, looking at that and, like, seeing how magic breaks down in Harry Potter versus, like, this fucking random Homestuck fanfiction, and, like, this is more interesting to me than Harry Potter's magic system, which doesn't really have rules. And this, like, we don't have strict rules, but we have, like, you know, structure here. We have a structure to how the system works, and we have, you know, real, like, how does magic affect, like, history, right? We don't have that in Harry Potter. Harry Potter is very much like, yeah, you know, we're not going to think about how, you know, our magic shit would affect fucking world wars. But, like, here there's at least some effort to make it feel realistic. And I don't know, I like that. Like, and it's not, like, perfect, right? Because I think realistically, if magic existed, the idea that magic wouldn't be used violently in wars is kind of bullshit. I think anytime humans get a hold of power that they can use for violence, they will. But, like, there is still, like, some logic here of, like, how this follows. So anyways, that's my little tidbit. But I just think this is really cool. I really like, and this is all unique. This isn't, like, based on a pre-made universe. This is unique world building made specifically for this Homestuck AU alternate universe fic, right? And it's cool. I like it. Anyways, okay, back to reading. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Also, NFX are very pro empathy. Like, it serves, exists to serve humans. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I like seeing how the languages work. This is Jade speaking. I think I like seeing how the languages work. I think it's a good practice for how to think about magic and see what mistakes you might make, but it doesn't seem totally needed to write it out all like that every time. Can't we just feel it out once we know what we're doing? Jade says to all of you as you walk out of class. I think it's going to be a case of how we use it. A spell we end up using all the time probably won't require formal writing, but I can see the value in precisely planning out anything more unusual or unfamiliar, especially anything with a high chance of turning someone inside out if you get it wrong, Rose suggests. Why is that immediately where your mind went to? Dave groans. I can see Rose's point, though. It's like training wheels for unfamiliar or dangerous things, June agrees. How does that work for demons, you ask Solux. It's both for us, Solux answers. Of course it is, June snorts. Shut up. I mean, magic is instinctive for us. Once we know how to do something, we can just do it. But it's also all written. For demons, everything is very hung up on wording, so Solux struggles to explain. It's like all magic has subtitles on for you. Dave tries, clearly wanting to help Solix put thoughts into his words, a thing he's ironically struggling with despite the aforementioned reliance on words. Yeah, that's a pretty good way of explaining it. So, I get how all the written stuff works easily. It's just a language I don't speak yet. The concept of doing magic without any words in it is just crazy, Solix says with a shake of his head. You've seen him do magical shit without saying a word, but then again, just because you can't hear it doesn't mean there aren't words. You're pretty sure you need to go on a Wikipedia deep dive on all this stuff, but Rose drags you off to select loose tea and buy a teapot that doesn't have a strainer built in, unlike the one she already owns. When you get back to your dorm, the two of you do another reading, and yet her cup becomes impossibly clean, and you get the exact repeat of your earlier perfectly round circle in your mug. Rose isn't pleased with that outcome, that's for sure. You've got a long day tomorrow. All morning you have a basic lab, and right after that you have to work all the way up until 7 in the evening. You're going to have to grab lunch from the cafeteria and eat it on the way to the library if you don't want to be hungry for your whole shift. It's bad enough when you're just angry at irritating students not putting their books back in the right place. Hangry Carcat is way worse than just Angry Carcat. But it can always get worse. Group project, your TA announced to the class, to much groaning from everyone around. For your basic module, you will be working in a group. As this language was developed by a group effort, your teacher has decided that you'll all work in groups as well. It builds character or something, the TA shrugs. You look around your table of friends and wonder just how big these groups can be and what exactly you'll have to do. Groups of 3 come and sign up at the front. You cannot change your group once you've made it, the TA explains. War of the Sexes, Rose suggests, leaning past you to smile at her brother with a sinister menace. I would high-five you for the suggestion, but I have been reliably informed by middle schoolers everywhere that girls have cooties, Dave informs her. Oh, it's on, Jade crackles and hops up to her feet. So you get to work with Dave and Solux. In fact, Dave is already walking off to write your name down without even asking you, or Solux if that's what you two want. You side-eye Solux. You've been getting on better with him lately. He's been almost friendly at times, so you think you can make this work if you try. Besides, it might be pathetic, but you're not going to say no to spending more time with Dave, are you? So the test we have to do now is the same fire resistance spell in basic, which I guess is going to be different than in C. Then we have some other stuff that I have no idea how we're going to do, but apparently we have to do that before we pass the fire test, so I guess we'll be learning about more stuff in the lectures, Dave explains and shows you and Solix a sheet of paper he got. I have advanced borrowing privileges at the library because I'm staff, so if there's anything we need beyond the basic textbook, I can help with that, you suggest. Swoon. Do you tell everyone about your lending privileges, Carcat, or are we just special? Solux snorts. You're especially annoying, you retort. Oh boy, I really feel like this was a good decision on my part, Dave interrupts. Right, no fighting with the guys, Moirail. The 3 of you shuffle your chairs closer together and start going through your textbook on basic. There's a suggested list of exercises there to help you identify how to modify all the parts so that with that work ahead of you, the 3 of you manage to get your heads down and make progress. After class, you only just manage to snag a slice of quite frankly disappointing pizza, which you eat while doing that fast walk that's not quite a jog all the way to the library. You can't in good conscience but handle the books with pizza hands, so you ditch your coat in the office and rush to wash them off. You know that you're not the only part-time library assistant there, because whoever else has shifts that you don't take doesn't do a good job of putting the ship back where it belongs, and you spend several frustrated hours doing something that you thought would be easy when Kanaya told you to do it, namely tracking down books that have been put away in the wrong place. Students will do it by accident when they're just reading stuff in the library and not taking it out, but then it tends to be a case of putting it a few books out of place that's easily set right whenever you're returning books to yourself and you see something out of place. But no, someone is putting books back in the entirely wrong place. You'll find one book in roughly the right area and then several others with it that don't belong anywhere near there. Like someone was taking it off of one of your book carts and just shoving a handful back anywhere because they can't be bothered. When you find who did this, you're going to ritually sacrifice them. Miss Paint would probably be okay with that. Needless to say, as your shift goes on, you're not in the most fantastic mood, and it's not helped by students being especially irritating, leaving their shit in the walkway so it's hard for you to move your book cart about. And fuck them, because you can kick their stuff out of the way, but what if you were dealing with a species with poor mobility, or a human in a wheelchair or on crutches? No one wants to get caught in your fashionable scarf or coat that you carelessly dumped on the floor. What's this? This is a fanfic that we're reading called Alternate Universe by Unda. If you do exclamation point summary, you can get a summary of all of the story so far. We're on chapter 6 right now. And we are, halfway through this chapter currently? You're full of impotent rage at the world, and especially other students. So the instant you hear something when you pass the door to the stairway, you're ready to chew someone out. You throw open the door, and instead of seeing dumbasses fooling around on the stairs or trying to grind down the rails of something, there's just a crying girl on the landing halfway up the stairs. Hey, are you okay? You ask, all the anger suddenly draining out of you. She sniffs and wipes at her face, turning to look at you. You can see little itty-bitty antlers at her hairline, and her face is slightly tan at the edges. The shape and texture of her nose has you thinking of deer. Her dark eyes are big and watery as she looks at you. Did you hurt yourself? Do you need me to call someone? I work here, you say hurriedly as you make your way down the stairs to her, or up the stairs to her. I just tripped, she asks, or she says in a tiny voice. Her lip wobbles, and you feel more tears might be on the way. Are you alright? You ask. Kanaya didn't tell you what the procedure was for students being hurt, but some basic fucking empathy seems like an obvious answer. No, this is my first year here, and my parents told me not to come. My roommate hates me, and I don't understand the classes. And now I dropped all my books when I tripped, and the girl's breath catches. She's gonna cry again. Hey, no, it's my first year too. I feel like I don't know anything, and when I went through, I went through that whole last 5 years without friends. I know that feeling. It sucks, and I'm sorry, you say to her. The last thing you want to do is act like the way she's feeling is just overblown. It sucks to be alone and out of your depth. You entirely know that, and if someone had told you to just cheer up, you'd have cast them off a cliff or something. Is that meant to make me feel better? The girl asks incredulously, so you do the only thing you can think of. Do you want to come to the office and have some tea and talk about it? You suggest a little helplessly. Surprisingly, she does. You make both of you a drink and sit down with her. She tells you where she came from, why her family didn't want her around humans, what her roommate is like. You're pretty sure that you don't help at all. You just listen and snap her out of saying stupid shit like she doesn't belong here. If she doesn't want to be here, that's one thing, but no one else should tell her where she does or doesn't belong. Fuck that. Mostly you just listen. Not unlike your first day here with Kanaya. She seems to feel better by the time she's finished her tea. She seems happier at the end, still emotionally worn out, but not on the edge of crying. You check her books out with an unthinking scan of her card and send her on her way. It's only then you see her leave the building that you realize you didn't even get her name. You're still doing that then, a voice says behind you. You scream and leap at your feet, but it's not Solix there. It's Spade Slick, just like the spade you saw in your cup. You predicted this. Still doing what? You ask him tightly. Being all Slick waves vaguely at you in a way that you should probably be offended by, as he seems to be implying your entire personality. What do you want? I know you're my boss's husband, but I don't especially want to talk to you given that you got Solix killed, you tell him sharply. The kid can't die permanently. I can. Who do you think has more to lose there? Slick retorts a little sharply. She hit him with a truck, you snap at him. Trust me, there are worse ways to go. But it's not as if I don't like the guy. I need to talk to him about his permanent death immunity. Sort of knocks him off my radar. Makes him a bitch to find. I need you to take me to him. I have something important to tell him, Slick says, adjusting his black cufflinks on his black the black cufflinks on his black shirt as he talks. No way. You got him killed. I'm not taking you anywhere near him, you insist. What, is this guy crazy? Why would you ever take him near someone he got killed? What if he's just fishing for Aradia so she can do it again? No way. Spade Slick smacks his hand to his face and growls in frustration. I've never lied to you, and I'm telling you, I just need to tell him something. It's vitally important to his whole cause. If my boss catches me trying to do this, she'll absolutely kill me, so stop wasting my time, he argues. Excuse me. You stand your ground and shake your head. You're not doing it. He stares back at you with his one eye. He's the one who goes in first. Fine. Would you pass on a message? One I've got to engineer to get around all these stupid rules with your memory, he asks. A message? Could that be dangerous? Tell me and I'll tell him if he agrees to hearing anything from you. That's all. That's my final offer, you say. Spacek looks around, looks put out, but sighs and nods. He falls silent and his face twists into expression, like someone trying to physically play Tetris from several rooms away. Tell him that part of his uncle's body is being dug up. He should... damn it, this stupid workaround. He should probably do something about that. There, tell him that. Hopefully he'll know what the fuck I'm talking about. And if he doesn't, don't try to get him to contact me. Aradia can't know I told him anything. Slick forces out. He shakes his head and turns around and steps to the doorway that wasn't there a second ago and vanishes. What was that? And more than that, did you really predict that? You actually have some magical abilities for real. This isn't a spell written out that any idiot could be able to use. You drank tea and predicted the future. Holy shit. The rest of your shift passes in hazed disbelief, but when you return to your dorm, you don't even go to your room. You go right up to Solux and Dave's room. You knock on the door and see Dave there with the Chinese takeout box in hand. Your stomach growls to remind you that you've not eaten yet. Carcat, hey, what's up, man? Dave asks you pleasantly enough. Is Solux there, you ask, probably rudely. Dave nudges the door open a little wider with his foot, and you see Solux perched on the arm of the sofa with a fortune cookie in hand. An overly loud douchebag in your future. What could possibly that... Oh, Carcat, I didn't see you there, Solux gasps in fake surprise as he looks up from the fortune in his cookie. I have a message for you, asshole, you grumble. Oh, Solux asks. I'll just shut the door then, I guess, Dave mutters to himself. Sorry, it's just my boss's husband showed up again. He wanted to talk to Solux, but after the whole truck thing, I wasn't gonna let that happen. You apologize to Dave. Oh, in that case, good call. Fuck that guy, Dave agrees vehemently. Wait, was it a message from Aradia? What was it? Solux asks in a rush, leaping forward from the sofa to land by you with a level of eagerness that makes you feel kind of sad for him. Okay, so the Carcat doesn't get to know stuff. Part just doesn't affect Solux. Did I use the right effect? I don't know the difference between the two effects, but yeah, it doesn't just affect... We kind of knew that because Matuna tried to say stuff, and Matuna couldn't say anything. They had to form the little bubble. And Latula was like, oh, interesting. Huh. So we know that for sure. No, he specifically said that she wasn't to know he'd said anything about this. I get the feeling he's going behind her back to get me to tell you this. You explain, and Solux's shoulders drop in disappointment. Newsflash, you're better off without a girl who kills you with a truck, dude, Dave says pointedly. Can we not get into that again? Solux groans. You sense this argument has happened a lot. Do you want me to tell you what he said? Because I would get it if you don't, you interrupt. Solix seems to think for a moment. He's obviously let down that it's not his ex messaging him that she wants him back through highly convoluted means. His tails are hanging pretty lifelessly at the moment, and his pointy ears are dropping a little lower. Yeah, sure, he says. He told me to tell you that part of your uncle's body is being dug up and you should do something about that, you tell him. What? Solix says, obviously completely confused. Demons don't have parents, much less uncles, Dave says. I know that. I figured it was code or an idiom or some shit like that, you tell him. You too remember Solux's demonology lecture that involved a murder and an illegal teleportation spell or two. It was an eventful night. I have no idea what he's talking about. Uncle's not a term we use at all. Even if you consider that your maker was your parent, which we don't, then I guess you'd end up considering other people your maker made to be siblings, but again, we don't, and I don't have any, and my maker... Solux goes silent. All his eyes are wide, and if it was possible for him to go pale, you think he would be. That'd be my maker's other creation, who was male. He said part of his body? That was his exact wording? Solux asks in a voice barely above a whisper. That's what he said, you confirm. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, Solux whispers. Solux, what's wrong? Dave asks. Solux is now pacing, and though he doesn't get a verbal response out of Solux, it's more like he gets a noise that says Solux is very stressed right now, but not explaining. The demon grabs your shoulders tightly. Tell me he told you where he is, Solux says urgently. No, he didn't. That's literally all he said. What is going on? You ask. What's he thinking? I can't search a whole planet for him, Solix says, his voice rising in pitch. He pushes away from you and goes back to your pace, quietly muttering, think, at himself over and over. You and Dave exchange a worried look, but it seems neither of you have any ideas what this whole thing is about or how to proceed from here. I wish I had something else to tell you. I managed to predict Spade Slick showing up with a spade in my tea leaf, but the other cup wasn't helpful at all. It even repeated the next time I tried, which was weird. I could try again, but I don't know if it works like that, and I'm not sure it'd be helpful I'm not sure how helpful I'd be, since I have no idea what this means to you, because you're not telling us shit. You say that last part a little pointedly. Perhaps consider telling us shit, Dave chimes in. Solix freezes and turns to look at you. The other thing you saw, the other cup, you took a picture, right? Solix asks slowly. Yeah. You nod and start looking for your phone, through your phone for the photo. Just as you get it, Solix leaps over and snatches it from your hand. Damn it, Solix. I know you didn't have parents, but who raised your rude ass? Don't snatch things from people. Do that again and I'll put my foot so far up your ass, you'll have shoe treads on your stomach. Sorry. Do that again and I'll put my foot up your ass so far you'll have shoe tread on your tongue. You hiss at him. Gotta love the world where snatching is a no-no, but threatening to put your foot all the way up someone's ass is. A-okay, Dave snorts in amusement. Solix is staring unmoved at your phone screen, and after a long moment, he hands it back. Dave, he starts in a serious voice, I know you summon me sometimes, and you know that I can't refuse to show up when you do that. That's why I really don't like doing it, Dave nods. Right. I need you to swear you won't do it again until I tell you it's okay. I need to go somewhere, and I don't know when I'll be back, but it's super important that you don't drag me back here, no matter what. Can you promise that? Solix asks, clearly completely serious. If something's wrong, can't you? Dave tries to protest. Solix just catches hold of his face and touches their foreheads together. Please? Solix pleads once more. Okay, I won't, but if you're in trouble, can you tell me if I can help? Dave says, but Solix is already walking off across the room at speed. He grabs a few things up here and there as he goes. A little lost, you stare at the picture of your white mug with a red blob of tea leaves in it. Exactly what did he get out of it? Which suddenly answered his question. Don't worry about me. I've got to go. I'll come back, though. I just need to do this, Solix says, and with a last look at Dave, he vanishes in a puff of smoke. Does he do this a lot? You ask after a second. What? Go off randomly for stretches of time without me knowing where he is? Yeah. Rose jokes that he's like the second cat of our household. Not that our cat Jaspers is around anymore, but whatever. I just figured he was doing some demon stuff of socializing with other people. Anything that wasn't hanging out in the middle of the woods with us. He's a free demon and he can do what he wants. And he's usually not gone for that long. He's never been like that before, Dave answers with a frown. He seems scared, you say. Dave nods unhappily. It's not like he can call him back now, he promised. I take it you don't know what any of that message meant either, Dave asks hopefully. But no, you don't. You tell him as much, and so you're just left standing next to your new friend, who you will not call your crush, or who you will not call him your crush, not this time, as he stands there with Chinese food in hand and a put-out expression on his face. I feel a little like I ruined your night, you tell him awkwardly. Don't shoot the messenger, right? Dave shrugs and walks back to his sofa. You'd really like a higher standard of opinion of you from Dave than just him not wanting to shoot you. I'm sorry all the same. God, I just blundered over here and opened my big mouth, you groan. Did you have a choice, though? If you saw something that important from the guy, then it was going to happen no matter what. Trust me, Rose did this whole seeing the future thing. Sometimes shit just happens, Dave tells you, gesturing to you with his chopsticks as he does. I'll be sure to put that in my next essay for that class. In conclusion, Professor, shit happens, you scoff. Aw, man, please do. That'd be so funny, Dave grins at you. For you, you'd say pointedly. Well, duh, who else matters, Dave says in perfect deadpan. You roll your eyes at him to show him just how amused you are with that. Now that I've gone and dropped that huge yet mysterious bombshell on Solux, I'm going to go get dinner and maybe stare at the other tea leaf reading to see if I can work out exactly what he saw that me and Rose didn't. I hope Solux isn't gone for too long, you say with a sigh. You still feel pretty guilty if you're honest. Nah, he'll be back. He promised he would, Dave says. Yeah, well, he's in our group project, so he'd better come back. Aw, he won't be gone for that long, Dave tells you. Yeah, famous last words. You leave Dave to his dinner and go to get your own. By the time you get to your room, Dave has told Rose just enough that she jumps on you with 500,000 questions the moment you step through the door. That spirals into her looking over your reading again, and the two of you brainstorming where he could possibly be. When you start wondering if the round thing could be a sun, and could be the sun, and could Solix have gone to the sun, you figure it's time to call in on the whole question. The next morning, you're up before Rose, so you get coffee brewing for the two of you and click the TV on in the background. You stand with your head resting on the cabinet as the coffee percolates, waiting for your mind to wake up and hoping the coffee fumes might help. Tropical cyclone forming 100 miles off the coast of Hawaii. The storm, which being upgraded to a hurricane, is heading westwards, and the current predictions have it making landfall across Japan and some other areas of the Chinese coast. Meteorologists have described the storm as the storm's sudden surge to be concerning. Hawaii is experiencing a deluge of rainfall, but no other severe effects, the newscaster says. Peering over your shoulder, you see a swarm swirling on the screen for a moment before the newsreaders move on to more local weather. Your local weatherman grins with a showbiz smile as he tells you what a nice sunny day it's going to be in your area today. You yawn and ignore him. At least you're not going to be hit with a hurricane. You hope everyone will be all right wherever it lands. Coffee? Rose yawns as she opens the door. Coffee. You agree and start to pour it. You like Rose. You have simple morning conversations. The two of you sit on the sofa and try to wake up. In the background, the TV has moved on to some class action lawsuit over undisclosed magical ingredients and a product causing rare adverse reactions. When you're halfway through your coffee, the light above you starts flashing brighter over and over. Someone's at the door. Rose groans and heaves herself to her feet, unlocking and then opening the door. Rose, hey, we have a problem, Dave announces, striding in. Do we? Rose sighs and shuts the door after him. You see Dave notice you and pause, though you don't know why he'd be surprised to see you. This is where you live, after all. So Solix had to go somewhere for reasons I don't know about, Dave begins. Kark had already filled me in on that, Rose says, and Dave looks a little relieved that he won't have to explain so much. So I wondered if he was going somewhere and wouldn't be back here. Does that mean he wouldn't also be, Dave says. Oh, I didn't think about that, Rose gasps. I know, we're just so used to him and I tried calling her and, Dave hesitates, glancing at you again. They're trying to talk about something without saying it in front of you. I think I left my book in my room. I'll just go look for it, you announce suddenly and leave. You shut yourself in your room and wonder just what the two of them are talking about, but since it's so clearly private, you won't interrupt, or you won't intrude. A few minutes later, a worried-looking Rose comes to get you so you can all leave for breakfast together. Rose is alternating between more coffee and a smoothie when you sit down at your table with your more substantial breakfast. Dave is sat at her side with a sheet of paper spread out between them. It's divided into 5, and you can see him blocking things out. We can cover you for that, but the only one who can cover me for this class is Karkat, Rose says, pointing at one point on the page. So, want to swap and miss your alchemy? What about Jade? Dave reasons. You're missing classes? You ask, setting your tray down. With Solix not here, Dave starts. Don't worry about it, Dave. Don't worry about it. Dave, we should go talk to student services about this, Rose says and gets up, taking her coffee in her reusable cup and drowning the last of her smoothie in 2 sizable gulps. Dave grabs his things and follows after her. All of that leaves you sat alone at the table, wondering what the hell just happened. After about 5 minutes of sitting by yourself like a loser pass, mainly with you pretending to read a book About 5 minutes of sitting by yourself like a loser pass, mainly with you pretending to read a book while you're anxious about being so obviously without friends. After that, though, June and Jade come into the cafeteria. They pause and talk for a second. Jade playfully rolls her eyes and shoves June in your direction and walks off to the food alone. Good roommate, best friend. June yawns and sits down. You look tired, you note, as June practically dislocates her jaw to yawn. Thanks, Karkat. Always a pleasure talking to you, June snorts derisively. I didn't mean, you hastily apologize, but June waves you off. It seems she wasn't offended, really. Do you know what's going on with Rose and Dave? You ask her. Broad question, she notes. They were talking about missing classes, you explain. June frowns, but you see the moment the penny drops in her mind. She sits up a little straighter and gives you a serious look. Listen, Karkat, I'd drop that if I were you. That really isn't a subject you want to stick your nose in. Not if you want to keep it attached to your face with Rose around. Seriously, June says, and between the firm look she's giving you and her tone, you know she's not playing around here. Why is everyone so goddamn cagey with their information? The only one who's not trying to bullshit me around here is Jade, you say in frustration. I'm not what now? Jade asks, stopping at your table with a full tray and setting it down. June helps herself to a few things off of it. You're not bullshitting me hiding stuff, you tell her. I could be, Jade says as she sits down. I have hidden depths, Carcat. I am a mysterious person. You all suck, you mutter. Look, dude, I'm not saying you can't be curious. I'm just saying that a kid at our school kept getting on Rose's case about this particular thing that we're not talking about, and Rose blinded the dude. You don't want to mess with her, but she likes you, so she probably won't blind you. Probably. Just leave it alone, June warns you. This sucks. You hate this. You hate the idea that something is wrong and you can't do anything to fix it. You just want to help your friends if they need it, and you can't do that if you don't understand what's going on. Is there something wrong with you? Are you specifically untrustworthy? I'm gonna go, you mumble and get up. You wander aimlessly, a little heartbroken and rejected. You have basic lab this morning with Dave and Solux for your little group project. Only Solux is who knows where, and Dave left with Rose to do who knows what. It's not yet time for lab, so you wander and sit on the steps by the statue, idly scrolling through Twitter to kill some time. Oh my god, this is made when it was fucking older Twitter. At CNN. Clown rally in storm battered magical dig site. Magical dig site outside of hashtag Nara in Japan. That's the weirdest thing you've read today. You click on the hashtag and thank fuck for English-speaking people talking about what's going on. Oh wow, a huge storm and a clown flash mob? Are you okay, Japan? Hashtag Nara. Wait, is this real? I don't think it's against the law or anything, but all those clowns and that storm near the dig site is a little unnerving. Oh wow, so if you dig up magic places, you get clowns. Hashtag good to know. No, guys, think about it. If those clowns aren't from Japan, they must have got there by plane. You know that thing with clowns getting out of a clown car? Imagine that with a plane. You're welcome. You stare at a few pictures below of a massive, whatever you call a group of clowns is. A chuckle of clowns? A honk of clowns? Or maybe they're like crows and it's a murder of clowns. A lot of them certainly look sinister as they fill the street. Also, not to judge or anything, and maybe it's hard to tell underneath all the costumes and paint that they're all wearing, but you wouldn't say that the majority of them look Japanese, so did they fly over there from... Wait, a group noun for clowns should be a congregation. Shit, that's the funniest thing you ever thought, and you're entirely on your own, and you have no one to tell it to. Wait, that's what Twitter's for. You quickly tweet out your brilliant insight and then go back to the pictures. This clown stuff is legitimately strange, and people are mentioning this dig. What's this about? You flick through the news, a vague idea that you know is flickering in the back of your mind. You open the actual CNN page instead of their Twitter account. It's not your news station of choice, but they're tweeting about the thing, so it's likely they've reported on the dig. You scan over the article. Yeah, you remember hearing about this on the news. There's some archaeological dig going on in Japan on some ancient magical site. You talked to Rose about it, and she mentioned that Dave was interested in that line of work. That's the same place that all these clowns are gathered at. The same place the storm is at. A dig. A dig. A spade! You dig with a spade! And the other reading you got, rapidly you flick through the pictures on your phone until you get to the photograph of your tea leaf reading. A white cup with a red circle of tea. A red circle on white, like the Japanese flag. You predicted this. You predicted what? A clown flash mob in Japan? That's the least useful magical power going. But you'd thought the spade referred to Spade Slick, not the dig. You suppose it could be both, but why would something be two things? Gee, if only your seer roommate was around to ask about the vagueness of predicting the future. Alas, she is not. She's off doing something else secretive. The time on your phone screen tells you that you really ought to be heading to your lab. Irritably, you put your phone away and head off. So, there's some clownery in Japan around a dig. That's weird. Spade's slick message mentioned about Solux's uncle's body being dug up, or part of it. So perhaps that's the magic thing that's buried? If you can see why he'd want to... If so, you'd see why he'd want to go there. But then, why is there a whole bunch of clowns there? You have more information, and yet you're even more lost than ever. When you get to your lab, you're not surprised to see that Rose isn't there, but you are surprised to see that Dave is. How did you leave before us and arrive after us? Jade asks before you even sit down. Because, you tell her unhelpfully and sit down, tossing your bag on the floor. I was worried you weren't going to show up, man. It's tough enough that Solux isn't going to be here, but I couldn't do this alone. We're a man down. Don't leave me. That's not how brothers in arms treat each other, Carcat. No good man left behind, Dave tells you without a hint of an expression. Do you just have acid for breakfast or what? You ask him after a second. That'd be some very special K cereal. Wait, no. Isn't Special K already a name for a drug? Ketamine, yeah. Dave nods. That's a tranquilizer, though, isn't it? June chips in from across the table. That's the opposite of my problem. Dave agrees. Rose has left us unsupervised. Let's all do drugs. June cackles. I have lost control of this conversation and possibly also my life. You sigh. Dave pats you consolingly on the shoulder. Yeah, I was gonna say, Will, you could stretch it to being 3, right? You could very reasonably stretch it to 3, I think. It's okay, Carcat. The wonder of interpretive oracle, it could mean whatever you think it does. True. But I think like if we have like order of meanings, right? Spade Slick was the first thing that that Carcat thought of, and then the third thing was the dig, the Nara connector. So like it still works, you know what I mean? Still works in my brain, in my little brain. It still works in 2s. It's okay, Carcat, Dave says softly. Your attention pathetically zeroes in on him as he leans in a little closer and his voice drops into something softer, something secret. I can bring order to your life, a sense of structure and purpose, Dave says smoothly. You would agree to anything he said right now. For I have a worksheet, Dave tells you and holds it up with the hand not resting warmly on your shoulder. Oh, fuck your life. Be still, my beating heart, you say flatly. I know, right? So, to give you the download, the secret information, we're supposed to get a feel for basic by first translating these spells from this list, and then booking one of the practice rooms this week in the sheet up in the front, and then actually trying them out. The last part of it is one where we have to write it on our own, but it's not the fire spell. It has a list of things to experiment adding in and out, Dave explains. That seems ill-advised, you say slowly. Well, nah, they're baby spells, and apparently basic is a language that's best learned when it's played about when played with it. Plus, the practice rooms are like magically insulated out the ass, so it's not like we can unmake reality. That's all basic stuff, no pun intended, Dave rambles on. Well, should we translate this first and then book a slot, or do you want to do that the other way around, you say? There's times I can't do, and you have to work at the library, so maybe we should get on that quick before it gets unmanageable, Dave suggests. The two of you get up and walk to the front. There's a line for the sign-up sheet, so you and Dave linger together, waiting for your turn. A question bubbles up through your mind, and you figure you may as well ask it. Hey, can Solix affect the weather? You ask Dave. Dave looks over at you, seeming a touch surprised by your question, but he seems to consider it a little before answering. Kind of. He can do this sort of psychic umbrella thing to keep the rain off. He doesn't like being cold, so he's not a fan of getting wet in the rain for no reason. He doesn't really like snow or ice either. He can affect it by keeping it off of him, but I don't think he can stop it raining. But if he could, he'd probably do that, so since I've never seen him do it, I would say he can't. Why? Dave answers you. Just a thought, you say, shaking your head. No way Solix was behind that storm then, or the one heading to Japan right now. Maybe he called in a favor with another demon or something, or it could be entirely unrelated. Who knows? The line moves on. Now you and Dave are at the front. It takes a little doing, but you two work out a time when you can both get together, and there's a free practice room and immediately book in a slot. You don't ask where Rose is. Instead, just focus on working through learning basic. It helps now that you have a feel of magic language structure from C. It's not the same by any means, but it's easier to spot how the grammar of it goes. You have lunch and then alchemy. You grab dinner and watch the news on Rose's TV. The storm is moving right over Japan and completely battering Nara, where the dig was supposed to happen. Or where the dig was supposed to be happening. A reporter on the scene is standing in a building with a glass wall behind her, talking about the speculation that the dig somehow caused the storm. Your focus is rather taken off of that when a clown holding an umbrella skids by the window in the background. You close your eyes and tip your head back on the sofa. You'd ask God what the fuck is even happening if you had the slightest amount of faith that you'd get an answer. Actually, you don't know what past you believed before the event. It'd be embarrassing to send out a prayer to a deity for it to be the wrong one. That's a one-way ticket to Smite Town, probably. Well, if the gods were still acting it anyway, which they aren't. The door opens and shuts, but you don't open your eyes. If you're here to rob us, I'll warn you there's nothing left that can surprise me today, so I have nothing to lose, you inform the room. You forgot to mention how you can't be set on fire. That'd be at least somewhat intimidating, Rose tells you, and you drops onto the sofa next to you. You hear a familiar thunk on the coffee table in front of you. I hear books, you say, and open your eyes. Sure enough, Rose has a stack of books from the library there. You can see the little tags on the spines. I saw your boss, Miss Paint. Got caught up talking to her before I could come back here, Rose explains. She's nice in a slightly terrifying kind of way, isn't she? You smile. She is. I like that in people, Rose agrees. You nudge at her stack of books with your socked foot and turn your head to read the titles. One of the books is on your suggested reading for your alchemy class, though not one of the mandatory books. The rest are all about seeing the future in one way or another. You want to ask her where she was, but you get the feeling that it's like a lock that you don't know how to pick. You don't know all of the information. If you push her, not only will you not get an answer, but you suspect she'll withdraw from you. It's not worth it. Rose, you start. You can't help but note that she's already a little tense. You suspect you will ask her something she doesn't. She suspects you will ask her something she doesn't want to tell you. Yes, Rose replies. I'm glad you're my roommate. I didn't have anyone before I moved here, and now I do. It's nice not being so alone all the time. You tell her instead. Rose stares at you, her black painted lips slightly parted in surprise, and her purple gaze focused on you. She seems to recover herself and smiles. I could have chosen to room with June, but just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean you can live with them. I am also glad I took the chance to room with a stranger. It would have been a shame not to meet you, Rose agrees. You could press the issue. Since we're such great friends, how about you tell me about what you and Dave were doing? Where did you go? But no, friendship isn't transactional, and if you treat it like it is, then you'll lose it. You just want to help. You're not prying for the sake of your own nosiness. Rose probably won't see it that way, so it'd be best for you to just leave it for now. You're being smart and not throwing yourself into a conversational pit that might ruin your friendship. Time to swerve out of the way of that pit, and right into a different one. I'm sorry, you blurt out. For what? Rose asks curiously. About the tea leaves thing? You elaborate. Rose frowns. I have no idea how that keeps happening, but I won't let it stop me. I was one of the best, Carcat. If some tea thinks it can stop me, then it'll see just how wrong it is, Rose says with conviction. I bet, but I meant I'm sorry because I think it worked for me, you mumble. What? She asks. Dave must not have told her exactly what happened, or Solix didn't. The spade. It was Spade's slick. He showed up at my work and he told Solix that part of his uncle's body was being dug up. You know, like with a spade. Solix didn't know where it was and he was panicking. And then when I mentioned my other reading, he worked it out and vanished. You explain and open your camera roll and hold up the photo. Japan. I think he went to Japan, where that dig was going on, the one in the news. Now the place is being hit with some weird storm, and all the things there, there's this wave of clowns arriving there. It was the flag, white background, red circle, you tell her, holding the photograph up. Rose looks at your phone in surprise, but eventually nods. Often with a vision of some kind, the meaning doesn't become clear until later. Why are you sorry, though? Rose asks. Because seeing the future means so much to you, and I don't want to see the future. I want to see the past. Learning how to do this is just a means to an end for me. But it's worked, and it didn't work for you, and that feels shitty of me, you admit. This isn't a zero-sum game, Carcat. I wish I was having more success, but it isn't like there are only a few places available for seeing the future, and you got ahead of me unfairly. I never used to use these methods, so it's entirely likely that they won't work for me. I am simply trying because I have nothing else to lose, and my pride is letting me stoop to what I admittedly considered an inferior level before. I am not angry or hurt that you were able to do this. I'm sure there's plenty of magical things that I can do that you can't yet, Rose assures you. None that I hold so important as you do with seeing the future, you point out. Fair, but I'm legitimately not upset at you. I do believe you about Solix, though. Japan seems to be a good fit for where he might be, though I have no idea what he could really be doing there. Demons don't have uncles, nor do they leave bodies behind. Clearly that was some kind of metaphor, but for what? Rose says. You're really not pissed at me? You ask her again. If you feel the need to grovel to assuage your conscience, you could make me a sandwich. Rose offers magnanimously, that's the word. Yeah, she isn't holding this against you. You make her a sandwich anyways. You're just happy that she doesn't hate you. There are books in your room that need studying, so you head off to do that. You leave your door open, and Rose leaves hers open as well. Sometimes you hear a page turn from her room as she quietly reads across the way. You can hear the click of her pen as a chorus of scratches of your pencil. A few hours later, when you can't study anymore lest your eyeballs roll out of your skull in protest, you sit in the sofa and cue up a rom-com. Rose joins you about 10 minutes in and scathingly comments the entire time, but you know she likes it because she smiles when she thinks you aren't looking. It's nice not to be alone. You just hope she'll let you help her with whatever's bothering her. Aww. Yay! Chapter finished. Hey, despite us talking for like 30 minutes at the beginning, we got through this one actually pretty fast. Or at least I think it was. It felt fast. Maybe it wasn't. Yippee! What's the next chapter is called? And they were roommates. They literally were roommates. Oh, Black Magic. Oh boy. Black Magic next chapter. So we'll do that tomorrow. And I will update the summary thing to make sure that that's included. I will write a summary. Probably like right after the stream, I'll try to write a summary of chapter 6 so it's because it's fresh in my mind. So yeah. Fun stuff. We got spades. We got spade little hints. We got little hints of spades. We got the I remember when I was reading for the first time. It's funny because like reading in hindsight, it feels really obvious that it's like, oh, Japan is the thing on the tea leaves. But you really don't like it really isn't obvious until it's like very obvious. You know what I mean? Because like they mentioned Japan. Is Japan what, the beginning of the last chapter? When do they mention? When is the first time they mentioned Japan on the news? Yeah, here at the beginning of chapter 4, they mentioned Japan. And it's the only time they mention a location. And then you know it's the white on red with the red circle. And I definitely didn't put 2 and 2 together until until Karkat put it together. Though he kind of Japan. Yeah, actually, I think it was at this point because Karkat still hadn't put it together, but it's talking like here of like, oh, what does it mean? You know, I have no idea what the fuck it means. And then they mention Japan here, and I was like, wait. And then they bring it up a little bit later. They bring it up further down. Once they kind of really start talking about Japan, reading it the first time, I was like, what the fuck is a circle? And then explain it, and it's like, oh, what else it would be? Yeah. So it's interesting. So it's kind of, I mean, I know obviously it's like foreshadowing and stuff like that, but I think it's cool that, because there's definitely the way that some unda chapters are, like, it's like they kind of, you know, sometimes the chapters are, the setup is at the beginning and then the payoff is like in the middle or at the end, for like a theme or an element that they're trying to do. But sometimes obviously they set it up in further advance, right? So that was set up, that was made in like chapter 4, and then you pay it off in chapter 6. You know, so but then there are other things that are like even this, like the tea leaf stuff was set up this chapter, right? So we get an introduction of the tea leaves reading in this chapter, and then by the end of the chapter, it's resolved, right? Of like, okay, we figured out what the tea leaf reading was. Yeah. Like, there's some things that they take longer, obviously, to kind of fully complete, but there are definitely some things that we get set up and then conclusion in the same chapter. Now, the chapters are really fucking long, so it makes sense. Like, it doesn't feel like the whole tea leaves thing was rushed, because it's like, okay, we set up that the future sight thing was happening, we got that with the Ouija board, and so Karkat getting readings about this from tea leaves isn't like crazy, like out of the blue. It's like, it just feels like kind of natural progression of him in this, you know, class, right? Of him learning future sight. Even though, again, it was introduced this chapter, right? So it's cool. I like alternate universe's pacing. I think alternate universe, honestly, in my opinion, has the best pacing out of all of Unda's Fix. But I also like alternate universe's ending the best too. There's even, as I pointed out way earlier, a lot of hints of what Karkat is that aren't obvious until you know what it is. Yeah, once you know what Karkat is, there is so much foreshadowing you can pick up early on. I remember the first time that I reread, and I was like, oh. And I was like every little because there's like quite a few times where it's like, not even just like the obvious of like what his, like the powers that he has, and what he shows, but there's like little things in conversations where it's like, oh, this thing. And a lot of that has to do with Solix as well. It kind of plays into that. I think that alternate universe is really neat because, similar to YWDMP, Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about, Skitty. Similar to YWDMP, there's like a mystery going on, and the mystery is like set up, and there's answers to the mystery. With Alternate Universe though, because like in YWDMP, we get Dave's point of view multiple times, right? It kind of switches between Carcat, Solix, and Dave. But in Alternate Universe, we never see Solix's point of view. Yes, Skitty, if you want to. You can preferably on Discord, because I'm not a huge fan of Twitter DMs. We never see Solix's point of view, so we never get all the easy answers. We're always from Carcat's POV, for the most part. And so we're not getting, like, any insight, right? But with YWMP, we do get Dave's POV, and Dave already knows the answers to the mystery in YWDMP. Or at least for the most part, the big mystery. This is my first time reading. It's still the first time I'm finding all these little bits and pieces. Yeah. It's super fun. But yeah. Alright, I think I'm going to go off stream. I think it's time to end stream. Yeah, in YWDP, there was like, we get to look directly at the mystery, though we don't know what it is. Yeah, like the first time we're with Dave, I guess we can just talk about Undefixed for a little bit longer, because I'm not super tired yet. The first time we get Dave's POV, we get a lot of references to like, okay, I'm gonna very vaguely reference YWDMP stuff. I won't go too crazy into spoilers. But we get a lot of references to like, bro, and we get a lot of references to like I think that he balances in like chapter 3, right? But we aren't like told what it is. We aren't told what it's about. We just know that he's doing something weird. But Dave doesn't explicitly, like, he talks in the balancer chat, like he does a few things, and we don't have any context for that, but it's very purposeful that we don't have context for it yet. But we still get his POV. Now, if we were in and Dave, Unda is able to kind of work around it where we don't get all the answers because it's very natural to Dave. Dave just going about his normal ass day. But with this, Solix is very out of his depth right now. And Solix is probably in any conversation with Carcat constantly thinking about the shit that he can't say. But here, yeah. Dave is so used to it and never, yep, absolutely. But here you couldn't do that with Solix. Like, Solix is obviously always kind of thinking about what the fuck's going on. So you can't have a Solix POV without it spoiling the mystery. There's a fic in the Discord of in Unda's Discord. There's like a document that I think is in the pinned for Alternate Universe. Is there? Oh yeah, it's somebody fan made it. Yeah. I don't think that this is actually. Oh wait, don't look. Okay. You didn't see shit. You didn't see shit. Yeah. I found it. Yeah. It's Solix talking to June. Yeah. Okay, that's all I'll say because I don't want to say anything more. Yeah, there's somebody fan wrote a document that was like a Solix POV, and it's really good. But it's definitely like you wait until after you've read the series. There's also a few little supplementary things. No, you're good. You're totally fine, Skitty. That was on me for not putting that in a different tab. But yeah. So, very fun. And yeah. Okay, I think I will be wrapping up stream tonight. Because it is almost 11 o'clock p.m. and I need to get some work done. So it was very, very lovely chatting with you all, reading the chapter. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 9 p.m. EST, for Chapter 7 of Alternate Universe, and we will keep it going. So have a lovely night, gamers. It was lovely to see you all. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your night. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I'm waving. Good night. Bye-bye. Wow.